Right then, if you've never heard of Hazel for Mac before, well, then you're going to love this. I mean, unquestionably, you will love it. If you know of it, but you haven't used it, then I think this is going to convince you that you need it. And if you do already know and use Hazel for Mac, if you know that Hazel for Mac is your friend, well, I've got nothing for you, really. Have I? Except, okay, I think the way to show what Hazel can do for you on the Mac, the way that it can sort your documents, rename files, move them, delete them, and do it all automatically, do it all forever in the background. I think the way to show someone that is to show it. So I have two deliberate examples for you and then an accidental third, and I would like you to then show me examples you have if you have them. See how it can work? Hello, I'm William Gallagher, and this is the Wednesday 58 Keys, which, as ever, as always, is for writers like you and me who use and who write on Macs and also on iPhones and iPads. Except remember, so the Monday video is there for all writers, and then there's the Friday Script Club, which is about scripts and screenplays, and that's exclusive for YouTube members. Fine. So do subscribe, do member, yeah, whatever, and do that. Do the clicking on the like button. We'll go for that one. Click on like because that helps. And you and I have so much to talk about. This time, two of the three examples, right, I want to show you, they're actually quite similar, but then everything is the same in Hazel, because Hazel is this Mac app that you install, and then when you get around to it, you tell it to keep a look at your desktop maybe, or your downloads folder, or any particular folder, and it does all day. Every day, looks at that folder, says, that's very nice there, William. And then it does nothing, unless you have told it to. You can set Hazel so that if you ever save anything to such a folder, or you drag a file in, anything like that, it can, if you pop a document into a folder, you can set it so that Hazel will act on that document, on that file. It will just straight away rename it in some way. It'll sort it somehow. Anything you choose, it will do. It will run a shortcut even, which actually means that just by saving a file to a folder, you can trigger a shortcut that means your Mac will do anything. Hazel will copy that file to a backup drive. It'll email it to somebody through a shortcut. It'll turn it into a PDF through a shortcut. Anything that shortcuts can do, it can do, because Hazel says, oi, do it to this file in that folder right now. In every case, you tell Hazel which folder to look at, then you say specifically what to look for in that folder, what type of document, what name maybe, and then what to do with whatever it finds. First example, I'm a freelance writer, and I have been for such a long time. It means over the lifetime of my career, I've sent out a lot of invoices, and they're all here. They're all in this folder that is cunningly called invoices. Oh, look at that. They're meaningless, though, at first, aren't they? It's my initials followed by an invoice number. And now, sometimes, as you can well imagine, I need to find an old one. And that means scrolling down, maybe through several years of this stuff, until now. Call that the before. This is the after. I didn't do any of that sorting. Hazel did it all. And what's more, it continues to do it. So next time I create an invoice, for example, it will be saved into this folder. Hazel will see that and do nothing, not for a day. That's because when I create an invoice and I save it there, well, I certainly need to then send it on to the client. I may also want to just, recheck that I've got the details. I mean, it's the invoice, it's the money. You've got to be sure you're right. So I recheck the details. And because I have told it to do this, Hazel gives me a day to do that in. Sees the invoice, but it will not touch it until that invoice is a day old. Then it moves the invoice into the right year folder, in this case 2025. And here's the thing, when 2026 rolls around, I don't have to do anything. I won't have to think about it. Hazel will wait a day for the invoice and then create the 2026 folder, move the new invoice into that, do it forever. You can see how this works for me. Of course you can. But I think you can also see how it works for you, because it will do this with any document. Actually, it doesn't even have to be a document. I know we're writers, so we're creating word processor documents, but this exact same thing can work for images, videos, music, anything. And tell you what, here's how. In Hazel, as it turns out, I apparently have already told it that I want it to watch my invoices folder. I don't honestly remember doing that. Maybe I tried something years ago, but I've definitely forgotten. But anyway, there it is, invoice folder, please. And now I need to say what it should do with anything it finds in that folder. First, I'm telling it should look to see, is there a file that starts with my initials and then DRV? Just so you know, DRV stands for Dark Ride Invoice. Dark Ride being my company and V being harder to misread than I for invoices, because I used to do DRI and it looks so much like DR1. It just... hilarity ensued. Next, date last modified is not in the last 1 day. You know I'm doing that, keep it all day, but you can see all the variations. Is in the last day, is within these dates, is in the last hour. So many different options for this. And actually, I think for this, for me, that's enough. So next, what I wanted to do when it has found thing. I did actually find this hard to figure out, but firstly, I checked the support forums at noodlesoft.com, the maker of Hazel, and I got the answer right there. And second, now I have it, I can just reuse it later in twiddly different ways. But for now, having got this, I want sort into subfolder. It's the pattern here that, for me, needed some work, the naming of the folders it will create. So the 2025 folder. I mean, look at all these options. And here's the thing is, those aren't all the options. I want to have folders, right, sorted into, invoice sorted into folders for the year I created them. So drag over to a date created to this thing. And now you see this is the default year, month, day, or digits. But I mean, I fiddled with this for so long. Eventually, like I say, I did choose a 4-digit year. I could also have done the month, but I don't have that many invoices. I figured the year would do. And that would be that then, I thought, when it was. But remember, Hazel will automatically do anything you say, including deleting files. And there is such a risk that you can make a mistake. It's really easy to make a mistake, and it will dutifully delete documents you really didn't mean it to. I've done this to my cost. I've done this to my cost recently. And in fact, so calamitously recently that there will shortly be a 58 keys about backing up your documents, William. But it's not like the makers of Hazel, well, not to blame, and it's like they have foreseen this problem, so they include a preview option. Before you run this Hazel rule automatically, you can test it out. Click on the eye icon, go to the folder that you're watching at, click one file, select one file and choose open. If the file you selected will be hit by that rule, will be found and controlled, Hazel gives you the green light and says the rule matches. That just means, though, that your rule will find that document and any others like it. You kind of also need to select and test a couple of others to make sure that those do not get a green light, that those will not be found and controlled by this rule, that they'll be left alone, please. And this preview green light thing, it doesn't look at what you've told Hazel to then do with the rules. So if your rule says find these 5 types of files and delete everything now, that's what it will do. So you do have to think about this. You do have to be extraordinarily careful. But you only have to be extraordinarily careful once. When you're sure everything is right, you've previewed, you've checked out, you've figured it through, you click the save button and that's it. You're done. There's a tick next to the rule that says the rule is active, it's live, it's running. It's automatically turned on, that tick, when you're creating a new rule, when you're writing and saving the rule, but you can turn it off, and I often do if I'm just not quite sure yet I've got it right and I've got to go do something else. Fine. But now, nothing. In a few moments, Hazel will look around, check your folder, see the files, do the business, and we're done. Except now I have that rule in that folder. I do also want to show you how to reuse and adapt it, just make it slightly more fine, I suppose. But first, because when I went in to do this, I saw something. I've got to show you the rule I forgot I created. I must show you this. Do you know, I think I keep forgetting this. I may have mentioned it before, 58 keys, but okay, you can, and I think you will, spend quite a while fiddling with Hazel to set up rules, okay, and so you should. You know, the risk of you deleting something, it's serious. I mean, it's not terrible, but you know, you need to take your time, make sure you're right. But then, when you're done with it, when you're finished, I keep saying you will never again have to think about any of this, and I can prove it, if only to myself, really, because of this rule right here. Hand on heart, I'd forgotten that I'd created this. I think I keep forgetting I created because I did it so long ago. But in the course of my writing business, okay, I do create a lot of images, and the giant majority of them I'll never need again. As I make them, I save them all to a folder I called the image drop bucket. I use them, I forget them, and then tomorrow they're gone and I never even notice. Because Hazel watches that folder. It sees a file, sees that it's older than today, and it deletes it. Now, as it happens, I'm sometimes, what would I be doing? I'd be getting images from other getting images out of PDF documents, for example. PDFs that I have to download and use and stuff, and I think because I quite unconsciously now know that they can be removed for me later instead of clogging up space, I save them in that same image drop bucket. I do what I got to do with them and just out of sight, out of mind. Any file in that folder, as long as it wasn't created today, will be deleted, except a huge number of these images I make have to be a particular size, certain shape, it's like, and I find the easiest way to do that is I'll never remember the numbers and the dimensions. I just make a template image, but I don't want that template image to be deleted tomorrow. So I tell Hazel, no. That's this second line. Tags do not contain green. I save an image template file and I tag it. Right click on it, choose the green dot, and that's tagging it as green, and I tell Hazel, don't delete anything tagged green. Leave it alone, please. You can set up countless conditions like this, and Hazel will work through them all, will abide by the lot. But the thing is, I truly do not know when I did this. It's at least, I don't know, several years ago. And yet every day when I come to save the next images, the only thing in my image drop bucket is the odd template that I have said, leave there. Which means, it's neat, I suppose, but also it means that my Mac does not get filled up with ultimately gigabytes of images that I will never need or look at again or think about again. And again, the thing is, I didn't even remember this because I don't need to remember it. It was actually, I've got to say, it was such a surprise. I was opening up this thing to show you and you're like, oh God, I've done that, haven't I? That's why that happens. Crazy. I love it. Yeah, so that was the accidental find. Next, the proper example, the one I intend to see, the deliberate example for today. And again, actually, it's similar to everything you've seen so far because everything in Hazel is similar. That invoice folder of mine that you saw a moment ago, well, actually, that's like the final PDF invoices. It's the ones that go out to the clients, and they're in that particular folder because that particular folder, it's in Dropbox, and it's also shared with my bookkeeper who doesn't need to see anything else, just the final versions. This folder, though, the numbers folder on my Mac, that's where I happen to create the invoices. I use it in numbers spreadsheets instead of word processors, but as you see, I make a lot of spreadsheets. Okay. Suddenly wondering whether I should have hidden some of I'll blur things out later. It'll be fine. Anyway, much more than I do with the final invoices. I really often have to go back through the copies here. Each time, for example, each time I invoice a client, well, I find the last one I sent them and I base the new one on that. It's what I'm going to be doing just after we've spoken. Some of my clients have particular requirements, actually all of them have particular requirements in their invoicing, and I'd never remember the detail, so I don't. I just open up the last one, edit it, carry on. But it is surprising, actually. Maybe it takes me a long time to find that last one. Here, the file name, it's a bit more descriptive than just my initials and the number because I know I'll need to find them later, but still there are just so many other documents in here. Because you're thinking it, I should say, yeah, I do track my invoices, but I track them in a spreadsheet. So, turning to Hazel. First step is to check that I've not actually already done anything with this numbers folder. You know, the way I did an invoices, I'd already done something. Well, I haven't this time, so find the folder, set that up. Next thing is to tell Hazel to keep an eye on it, like so. Okay. Now, I could just do it again, start writing the new Hazel rule, do it exactly the way you saw, but you saw me. I have already done that one for the final invoices, the PDFs. And what I want now is pretty much the same thing again. So let's go back into where Hazel watches the invoices folder, drag that rule out over into the new numbers section, and it copies to there. In this case, I do want to be sure nothing happens until I'm ready again. So this is a time when I would untick turning that on, untick the rule to turn it off. I'm just being cautious, but I'm doing it. Next, the first part of this bit is a doddle. In this folder, as it happens, I name my invoices beginning DRV. And then there's a number, which is the same as on the final PDF, and there's some more descriptive text, but I don't care about that. All I care about here is the DRV prefix. And this time, I might just be being cautious again, but because the file has so many other things in it that I do not want to be touched, I only want the invoices to be moved around, I want to add another condition. I want to be able to say that, yeah, the document must begin with DRV, but it must specifically be a numbers spreadsheet. Unfortunately, here's what, I think this is a bug in Hazel. It's been there for ages. Maybe it's just me, but yeah, in the Max Finder, for example, when you're searching for something, you're able to say that the kind is other, and then you can type in, say, numbers, and it will recognize that you mean the file must be a numbers spreadsheet or Excel or Word or whatever it is you want. In Hazel, Hazel just snaps back from other to document, and that's not really any use to me in this case. But as it happens, Macs do use file extensions for documents. It kind of hides them because I think extensions are a bit ugly, really, and it's kind of Windows PC-like, but every document has an extension. And as it happens, I know that number spreadsheets, really, the names all actually end with dot numbers. So add that. We've already got date created is not in the last 1 day set. That's from the previous rule. Now we're adding what the extension is. And now you need to test it. And actually, I've made mistakes here before. I've learned to do this very carefully. Find one document that you do want the rule to work on. This is the same as the last one before. You get the green light, choose one you don't want it to work on, get the red light, all's good, you're happy. So really, I mean, what I've done is I've copied that first example, haven't I? I've changed a little bit, but what it looks for, and now it would just carry on sorting these invoices into year folders, just the same. Only the sole thing in that final PDF invoice folder are invoices. There's nothing else. There's never anything else. Here, there's a lot of everything else. And I don't think that having a folder named 2025 would be especially useful in the middle of all of that. So let me click in here, prefix the date with the word invoices. It's talented naming. And now we're done. Save, tick to turn the rule on, make it active, and wait. I actually timed this one. It took under a minute for Hazel, as it was going around, to look at the files. A lot of files there. Which ones qualify? And then move them all into the folder that it created. I do like, right, that you've just seen two deliberate examples, Hazel rules that I just created and I'm now using. I also kind of love that you saw one I'd forgotten that I hadn't really realised I was relying on every single day. I do worry a tiny bit, though, that the three examples were so similar that it's kind of a failure of imagination on my part that I haven't done something more elaborate. You don't have to. I mean, it's not like there's a test at the end. And whatever you need Hazel to do, that's what you need Hazel to do. And that's what Hazel will do. Fine. But let me describe one more example that I can't actually do yet. Let's see where it is. Oh, hang on. This is a 10 terabyte drive. There's a lot of video on it. I'm still adding to it, but basically it's all my old DVDs ripped onto the drive. The drive sits by my Mac, and I use an app and a service called Plex, which means I can sit in my living room downstairs and I can watch the video stream from this drive through the Mac over to my TV set. I have an Apple TV 4K plugged in and it just goes. It's just excellent. But that means the drive having to be on all the time whenever I might need it. It means the Mac being on all the time actually as well, but I'm not very keen on either of those things. Not very green of me. The Mac does tend to be on a lot because it tends to be doing various things, rendering stuff. But I like to be able to switch off the drive when I can. I like to have it switched off when I'm not downstairs using it for Plex. And I have to have it switched off when I'm making videos or recording podcasts, because no matter how I cushion it, somehow on these desks it seems to set up a vibration noise that gets everywhere. So, okay, fine. Switch it off, dismount the drive, yeah. But then, you know this. I will be in my living room. I'll go to watch Plex and the drive is off. I could run upstairs and turn on the Mac. I think what I want to be able to do and what I should be able to do is this. Run a shortcut on my iPhone that just saves a document to a folder on iCloud. Here in my office, as long as the Mac is on, Hazel is watching that iCloud folder, sees the file. And when a text file of a certain name appears in that folder, Hazel runs a shortcut. And now the end result, skipping a bit here, but the end result is that my drive starts up, and after a minute or two I can watch Plex downstairs without getting off my backside and coming up to the office. It does take a few steps, right? Such as how actually shortcuts can't do that, can't mount and dismount drives, but Keyboard Maestro can. It's another app. I have a Hazel thing that runs a shortcut that starts a Keyboard Maestro thing. Keyboard Maestro, whole other area, another brilliant app. There are 58 Keys episodes about it, but then that starts up the drive. All of this will work. The problem is that my drive is broken. I have lost all 10 terabytes of video, which is another reason you're going to get very shortly a 58 Keys video on backing up your data, William. Please. It worked out, it's okay. But while I kind of worry through that, let me just say Hazel is available from noodlesoft.com, link in the description, of course, and it costs $42. I swear to you, I checked that price just now, just before you and I started speaking, and I laughed. I mean, it's not like I think $42 is a casual purchase, but $42 years ago for something that works for me every single minute that my Mac is on, that's ridiculously cheap. What's the per day cost? Fractions of a penny. Do try Hazel out if you haven't already, and if you have already, seriously, give me your examples. I'd be very grateful to know how you're using it. I mean, maybe we can steal ideas from each other. That'd be good. But in the meantime, thank you very much for watching. Now take care of yourself, eh? Write more. We are writers. Hazel frees up some writing time. That's what it does. And I'll see you soon.